Signs of the Southland, Sunday, November 28th, 2021. Mr. Grant, what are we doing in your apartment in front of the TV today?
This is about as close, I think, as anyone's ever going to get to a live episode of Scions of the Southland, unless there's just massive clamoring that I don't know about. But
I don't know. We're here. We're at Jake's apartment in redacted part of Atlanta. We have the NCAA Women's Volleyball Selection Special pulled up in front of us. And we are going to live commentate that as the bracket comes out on ESPNU. I don't know. Do you have any preliminary thoughts on what we should see?
Yeah, I do have some preliminary thoughts. It's going to be very interesting to see how things shake up. Based on the RPI, I think we probably could expect to see 3, 4, 5 ACC teams hosting regionals this year. But based on what the coaches and I guess the greater perception of the sport, it'll probably be closer to 2 or 3. Obviously, with us being that 3, we're hoping that it would be 3. But they have just announced that Louisville, the overall number 1 undefeated Louisville Cardinals, ACC champions, will be the number 1 seed overall in the tournament. That is thoroughly unsurprising. It would be a shock and a travesty if it was anything else. Louisville has been rated very well this year, and they'll host all the way through the Elite 8 before things move on to Columbus, which is definitely worth noting as the site of the Final Four and the National Championship in about 3 weeks' time.
Yeah. Number 2 seed nationally is Texas. Texas has 1 loss. They're 24-1. Number 3 seed Pitt Panthers, 26-3. They are second place in the. Well, they finished second place in the conference as ESPNU shows a couple of lovely shots of Pitt playing Tech at home.
Yeah,
that's 2.
There's
I really wish they would include Pitt losing to Tech at home. Anyway, number 4 seed Wisconsin Badgers, 25-3. You had something to say on Pitt?
Yeah, I was going to say none of these are unexpected in terms of the top 4. Wisconsin being a little bit more borderline, but really the polls basically waited as long as possible to move Texas down from number 1 and Wisconsin down from the top as well. So good to see the ACC getting its due. Tech did notably win at Pitt. Obviously, we don't know the rest of our draw of these draws that they're going to be seeing here. But in terms of a top 4, it's unremarkable overall. We could very well go into a building that we've already played in this year in terms of Louisville and Pitt. And then, like I said, Pitt being a place that we did win. So definitely notable.
It is important to note that just like every other rankings release and every other tournament special, ESPN is intent on dragging this out as long as possible. So I guess we're going to have to vamp for 10 minutes every time they display 4 seeds. So that's a top 4. That's Louisville, that's Texas, Pitt, and Wisconsin. 2 ACC teams in an unusually strong year for the conference. I don't know what else is going on around the nation in terms of, how we compare. If maybe the Big Ten is having a bit of a down year, or maybe the Big 12 is having a bit of a down year. So it's an interesting mix, right?
I would say that in terms of the conference as a whole, just really bringing up the floor in the middle is kind of similar to a narrative that we've seen already in volleyball. They're also going over some more teams right now. We'll let you know if Tech pops up here in the meantime. But Baylor and Purdue have been seeded 5 and 6. Tech could have been expected to go as high as 6, just given that they are 6 in the RPI. But the ACC has really stepped up its scheduling as a conference.
Kentucky at 7 here,
yeah. And I don't know, all of it's very deserved. But I do think, especially as we see these seeds roll out, not that we're disappointed not to be announced yet, but
Frankly, I'm just happy that we're doing a conference.
Hey,
we're doing a preview show,
there
and
we
here's
are.
Tech at number 8 nationally, 23-5, like we already said. There are some very fun highlights here that we're going over. You should tweet that while we have this open.
Yeah, and I think the fact that we see 3 ACC teams in the top 8 They're now announcing Ohio State, who essentially, other than the middle two rounds, have a home tournament. Yeah, she just domed that Notre Dame girl.
Well, I'm more laughing at the fact that they're using the Tech logo for Ohio State in the corner there. That's very funny. ESPN cares about their non-rep sports, as we've always said.
Yeah. It looks like somebody is trying to watch freaking Sunday Night Football on my YouTube TV, so I'm going to go yell at someone.
Anyway, we're going to vamp really quick while Jake has to fix his TV. Oh, no. 10 Nebraska, 11 BYU. Again, none of it is expected. None of it's unexpected. BYU seems a little low, at least in terms of their record. They're 21-8 or 28-1. Excuse me. Minnesota at number 12. That's interesting, considering where we played Minnesota last year, and how highly regarded that program is, and how highly regarded their coaching staff is as well.
Minnesota almost took out Wisconsin last Sunday. I would like to say that's what it is. We see a UCLA team right now being ranked 13th. They did defeat us this year. We've talked about the caveats there. The information is really coming fast at this point.
Yeah, they took their time with the top four, and now they're rattling off the next few.
It's probably just all the national seeds, and then they'll draw it out, go to commercial. But Creighton, number 14, they've been one of the best mid-major programs all year. No shocker there.
Send the tweet. Oh, that is a sent tweet.
It's already getting likes, man. We're going great.
And I just got a notification on Discord from someone quoting our tweet. The benefits of live radio. This looks like Oregon. Oh, no, Washington at 15. That's interesting.
I would like to make one more comment about Nebraska. Louisville did knock them off in their home gym this year. They are Florida rounds out with the 16th. But Nebraska is the highest attended volleyball team in the country. And Louisville went into their own gym and knocked them off. So in terms of ACC teams, they've all been tested this year.
It's especially
the top three.
Really, really strong year for the ACC. Like as a whole, like those top 3 seeded teams in the ACC just battled, and I hate using the word battled considering what we're going to talk about later, but they have battled and really fought this year to make a name for the conference, and it's good to see that work recognized on a national scale, especially because Louisville went undefeated.
Yeah,
with the schedule that they had, it's very, very impressive.
Louisville had a fantastic year. Pitt had a fantastic year. The real questions now are with Miami being a top 12 program and Florida State being a top 15 program in terms of RPI. One, kind of surprising not to see either of them hosting, but the question now becomes, when are we going to see their names pop up? Florida State, Miami, North Carolina, and then borderline Syracuse. So we could see 6 up to 7 teams in this tournament, which is just a massive, massive increase over the discourse that we had around this tournament in 2019 and where kind of the state of the program was. And this is kind of reflecting a collective for the conference in general to schedule a lot stronger. You're seeing, like we said, Louisville going into Nebraska's gym. Notre Dame finished with a losing record because their non-con was that hard, wound up with a 36 RPI.
Notre Dame, when they started conference play and they came to Georgia Tech that first weekend, was 3-9.
Yep.
And they came in,
their RPI was still really high.
Their RPI was really high, but that was a turning point in a lot of ways for their season. When they came in, they lost those first 2 sets. They turned it around in the third set, and then really kind of just laid the wood on Georgia Tech in their home gym. So it's gonna be interesting to see how this gets spaced out as we move forward with the tournament bracket release here.
They're about to go for the Louisville upper left bracket. Louisville drew UIC from, actually, I know their athletic facilities real well. Maybe a story for another podcast, but we can talk about high school basketball and swimming in their gym and their pool. But they'll have Ball State and Michigan as well. Michigan, notable good program. Ball State, very, very strong out of the MAC. They'll draw Miami.
That's good. That's number 4, right? Number 4 ACC team?
Yep.
Number 3 finish, but number 4...
Well, they shouldn't be number 3 finish, but that's
the 4th ACC team in the tournament is what I mean to say, because English is hard. Florida A&M and Florida will finish out that what is that, 8-team set?
Yeah, so Miami wouldn't go to Louisville to play them in Louisville until the Sweet 16. So they'll be in Florida's region because you kind of got to think about it. And this goes for them as well as us.
Podcasting is a visual medium.
Podcast is a visual medium.
Especially live podcasting.
You got to think about it like a baseball regional in that it's like that pod. Granted, it's not double limb or bracket style play, but you do have kind of those groups of 4. Tennis is similar. It is worth noting, we've seen our 5th ACC team up already. That's North Carolina going to Ohio State's site. They'll play Tennessee to start, and then Ohio State if they win. Not as notable the other half of the bracket, except for the fact that it's us.
Not as notable, he says. So that's Western Kentucky and South Carolina in one half of Georgia Tech's regional pod, and the Citadel, totally vaunted usual opponent, the Citadel. I say that
scares me.
I say that with a very aggressive amount of irony. Vaunted opponent, the Citadel, will play Georgia Tech in the first round.
Time to tweet. So that's Western Kentucky.
Yeah, so that's Western Kentucky versus South Carolina in the first game in the Georgia Tech regional, and then Georgia Tech versus the Citadel. That is an interesting matchup. The problem is that I can tell you a lot about the football teams at those other 3 schools. I cannot tell you a lot about their women's volleyball teams. So I hope you have some RPI statistics pulled up for me to talk about.
Yeah, I will do that one sec.
He's tweeting.
Oh, I completely botched the tweet. Nope.
Oh, what did you do?
Gotta delete it so I can put it in the thread.
Oh my God. Live podcasting and live tweeting are arts. Performance arts,
Tech
as we've all said.
In the Louisville regional.
It's a region, right? It's just region. It's not the regional. Because they just flow into Louisville if Louisville advanced far enough. Actually, I think it's being played at the Yum Center. Like all of Louisville's matches, I think, are being played at the Yum Center.
They might have 15,000, 16,000 fans at those games.
It could be a fun trip. I'm not thinking about it.
Along with North Carolina and Miami.
So that is 5 ACC teams that we've counted so far. It's already a strong year for the conference, right there.
Oh yeah, and I mean the fact again, going back to 2019, that year we only saw 3 ACC teams make it at all. The year Tech finished second in the conference, and you know all the details there. But yeah, no, it's great to see. There's I don't know. I'm kind of lost here at this point. I like how she's on the TV behind her.
That's creepy. That's a little unsettling. Pull up the RPI. Let's talk about at least the Citadel while we're here.
So the thing I did want to note though is on the Big 12, Big 10 discussion in terms of conferences in general. The Big 12 is the number 1 conference in terms of RPI overall. They do only have 10 teams.
Yes, because counting is hard for athletic directors.
There's a lot more dead weight in the ACC, or potential for it. So, yeah, the bottom of the ACC is not quite as high as the bottom of the Big 12, but there's a lot more room to fall, if you will.
Hey, they got us on the big board looking at, I think they're going to do a live check-in, maybe, or they're just waving. They gave out some shirts. Are those normal volleyball shirts?
I think those are just normal Georgia Tech volleyball shirts.
Kayla Kaiser is doing another TikTok dance. Nice.
Classic. But yeah, no, and then the Big 10 is third with the ACC sandwich right in the middle. In the meantime, we will pull up teams. I just need to
This is a good point.
This
is a good point to note that the NCAA selection show has gone to commercial. So we have some time to breathe. We have some time to catch up. No free ads for the ads that are currently going on the selection show, and that's why we have it muted.
The Citadel is 213th in RPI. Presumably they won the SoCon. They're 14-11 as
Doesn't
of the last
it say
update.
that their last... I mean, it looks like their last game was a W.
Yeah,
so
we can click on them. Let's see if they've played anyone interesting, since we are blessed with
technology.
3 whole minutes to breathe. So let's see. They have...
Ooh, that is a...
canceled game against Auburn. That's tough.
That might be their toughest, best opponent on this list.
Yeah, Northern Illinois we played a couple years ago. Idaho State we played a couple years ago. I just don't know how to compare apples to apples over
There's
many
also
years.
the RPI ranks on the right.
Furman,
it looks like.
Nope, that's attendance.
Oh, I tried.
Yeah, there's no way that Mercer's 20th in RPI. No offense, Mercer. Furman, I think we've seen them before, but really, there's not a lot to be able to judge off of here. It looks like they defeated
They went
UNC
2-3.
Greensboro, Samford, and Wofford, which probably means they were the 7 seed in the 7 seed in the conference, if I had to guess.
I mean, we can pull up the SoCon bracket.
They've won 3 in a row, so that's essentially that.
Interesting. Let's look at Western Kentucky.
Yeah, I'll pull them
just
up
while
next.
we have to.
We have plenty that we could go off that we just had to run right through.
Western Kentucky looks to have also won their conference, the CUSA. They are
18th.
RPI 18th.
Oh, that's a little scarier. They swept Notre Dame.
That's an early season Notre Dame. They also played Lipscomb, who we played in the conference NCAA tournament last year. That's a 3-1 victory. Swept Wake Forest.
Oh, shoot.
I think that's
so they're
notable.
Good.
Couple sweeps of Marshall. Couple 3-1s to Charlotte. There's a lot of double games here.
We might want to hope that South Carolina takes these folks out. Yeah, that's how the CUSA has been scheduling this year.
Interesting.
And a lot of sweeps for the CUSA. And I don't think they lost at all in CUSA play.
Oh, they didn't. Or they only lost a couple sets, honestly. And they only lost the 1 set in the tournament, too.
So they must have dropped 1 game then, because Rice was the number 1 seed in the tourney. But
they dropped more than 1 because UTEP was number 2.
Yeah. Interesting.
Intriguing. Show me South Carolina.
I know South Carolina went 14-14. That I am certain of. Now let's go to the advanced metrics.
He's very prepared because he has to swipe back and forth to find the next button and the previous button.
So
South Carolina, obviously, SEC.
They beat the Rice team that
was in the CUSA championship.
Yes. South Carolina swept Clemson. They swept UCF, who we went 3-1 against, and they also beat them 3-1.
3-2 to Georgia, or they beat Georgia 3-2.
They got swept by Pitt. Interessante.
They traded sweeps with Alabama. That's odd.
Yeah, that's really weird, actually. Tennessee is a tournament team. They lost.
They beat Kentucky.
Yeah,
they did the same thing to Kentucky that we did to Pitt. So that's interesting.
And then they lost twice to Florida, who's the 16.
And then they got swept by Arkansas.
They kind of fell off at the end of the year.
Collier is on the TV right now. We have it muted, so we can't actually listen to what she's saying.
I'm sure it's great, though.
I'm sure it's very motivational.
I think it's also a rights violation if we unmute the TV. So
also true. Technically, we don't make any money off of this, though.
That is true. We definitely do not make any money off of this.
What else is interesting? They did lose to Tennessee twice. South Carolina lost to Tennessee twice.
Tennessee is a tournament team too. They're playing North Carolina in the opening game.
Yeah. So it's an interesting matchup. I think, like you laid out, I think Western Kentucky is the toughest out here.
There are no easy. There are going to be no easy games in this bracket, which is terrifying.
Which is like every time that we talk about baseball regionals, that's how it is.
Yep.
Right? There are no easy games in the regional bracket, and so this makes it very, 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 very interesting moving forward.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh wow. Trying to see if there's any more insight that we can glean real quick. Let's see. Yeah, we talked Western Kentucky, we talked South Carolina, we talked the Citadel a little bit. Wow, this interview's so long. I really want to know what's going on. But
also they're giving us a lot of time to vamp and talk about these things, whereas we're ready for the rest of the bracket now. We're ready to issue some hot takes and then
Could
digest.
They have slowed down the top 16 seeds or something?
This is the worst paced. Every year, these selection shows are terribly paced.
So, let's see.
Okay, I think we can breathe a little bit. I think we can breathe a little bit here.
This is great podcasting.
I don't know. I will say I don't exactly know what the schedule for the day looks like. It's obviously there are 3 games.
Yeah.
Right.
It's 12-2 and then 12-3, so presumably an afternoon for the non-home game, and
Yeah,
then a
so
night game for us.
Yeah, so they'll probably do like a 2 p.m. for Western Kentucky, South Carolina, and then a 6 p.m. for Citadel, Georgia Tech, and then the winner will probably play at 2 p.m. on the next day. But this is something we can look up. I don't know why we're talking about it. We can look this up.
I don't think they'll announce it until after the game.
No, it might be in the post.
Anything. No, this is just they await their selection.
Oh, it doesn't say in there?
Yeah.
This is a very long interview.
It is. No, I'm really curious. Let's see.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, no. In terms of automatic qualifiers, the Citadel was, in fact, the automatic qualifier, as was Western Kentucky.
Yeah, so both of them won their conferences.
Yeah. I'm really interested to... I wish we could have pulled up or paused or screen grabbed or whatever the... whatchamacallit? The other part of the bracket, because that would have been interesting to note, potential
matchups on the other side.
Yeah, other than North Carolina and Tennessee, I didn't catch the...
So it was Ohio State versus Howard?
Howard, yeah. So that would be...
And then North Carolina and Tennessee fed into that.
Yeah.
And then our regional.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting back started with the bracket, so I guess we'll tick, tick, chop, chop here.
Yeah, given that it looks like Baylor is the first thing they're mentioning next, we may not run into an ACC team on this side of the bracket.
Now they're rattling them out. So that's Baylor, Texas A&M,
Corpus Christi,
Northern Colorado, Washington State.
A lot of automatic qualifiers there.
Stanford is on this side of the bracket. They will play. Come on. Iowa State. That's an interesting matchup.
Iowa State's been pretty good this year.
For like non-volleyball purposes, that's a very interesting matchup to me. South Dakota, we played in the NIVC tournament 2 years ago, versus Minnesota, who we played in the NCAA tournament last year. So that has a lot of narrative significance to Georgia Tech.
Good for South Dakota, though. That was a fun program. They hosted a good game. Their fan turnout was really strong. So
absolutely. Also, I called them South Dakota State while I was speaking quickly. It is South Dakota, not South Dakota State. I got to be very specific about that. Number 13, UCLA will play Fairfield, and that part of the bracket will take on the winner of Pepperdine and UCF. Then Texas Tech will play Florida Gulf Coast, Dunk City, and the winner of that will play the winner of Colgate and Wisconsin.
So interesting stuff on this side of the bracket. Off the bat, Pepperdine, good to see them in
Pepperdine.
the mix. UCF has 6 losses. Of those 6 losses, half of them are to teams represented in our chunk of the regional or of the bracket, being South Carolina for, I believe, 2, we said, and Tech for, obviously, another one. That was
interesting.
Definitely a tough game. But
I think it's very telling of Tech's strength of schedule and the way that they schedule this year, strength of schedule, that there are so many teams from their schedule that are in this tournament already. Yes. Like we're just about halfway through the bracket, and we are already seeing so many appearances. I want to dive into one of these teams. Actually, I want to see what UCF is looking like in the RPI. If you can pull that up.
Yeah. Let me go navigate there.
You had them right there.
I did have them right there.
So we talked about UCF's losses, those 6 losses. They went 19-1 in conference. Obviously, they lost their season opener to Tech 3-1. 2 losses to South Carolina. They also got swept by Penn State. So that's an interesting feather in their cap.
They lost to Georgia.
A 5-set win over Miami.
And then I think they only lost to Houston in a 5-setter.
And they stomped. They stomped a lot of those teams in the AAC. Took 5 sets to Wichita. Took 5 sets to Cincinnati. But everything else is a sweep, and then 5 sets to Houston. So they really ran train right through the heart of the ACC or the AAC there.
It's interesting too. I'm really interested to see in particular where Florida State lands. I know we've noted on Miami and we have seen them pop up already, but in terms of like our last look at Tech, Like, it's really easy to be like, oh, shoot, Western Kentucky's a top 20 team in RPI. Which, again, very reasonable response.
Also very true, considering that RPI is a literal number, that we're not just eye testing this.
And coaches polling it. But no, the last team Georgia Tech faced was number 14 Florida State. Like, it's not like RPI is a death knell. And also, we're number 6. Like, it's, I don't know. I feel like my instant reaction was to be like, scared. But
there
people
is
should be scared of us. This is a weird concept.
There, you realize that there is an audio recording of you saying that we should be scared of our opponents, right? I can go back in this audio recording and pull it.
But we
later.
shouldn't. So I'm inconsistent at best. Woo!
Fantastic. Let's actually go in and look at Florida State's tournament resume while we have a minute here.
Yeah, again, they did lose to UCF in 5 sets. Other notables: Michigan, who is in the field already. They were swept by. In terms of other teams,
Florida. They actually beat Florida and Notre Dame here.
They beat UGA in 5. They lost to UCF in 5, as we noted. They were swept by Louisville.
UNC sweep.
They swept UNC, lost to Miami in 4 and 5 apiece.
Lost to Pitt 3-1. Obviously got beaten by us twice. I think this is one of those things, and they ended the season on a really rough streak.
Yeah.
Here they won at Syracuse in the middle of November, and then took 3 straight losses to end the year. And I'm sure that Miami one hurt, considering it was a 5-set game.
If you think about it, looking at how they ended their year, yeah, we can talk about how they're a good RPI team and all that, but working backwards from the Tech loss, they were beat by Notre Dame, obviously a good team. Miami's in the field. Good team. Syracuse is a bubble team. North Florida, throw that one out.
Tech again.
But before that, their string of wins is Clemson, another Syracuse win, Boston College, Wake Forest, Virginia Tech, lost to Pittsburgh, win over Virginia, win over a myth Duke team. Like, they didn't really, other than the 2 wins against Syracuse, after the North Carolina win at the beginning of October, they didn't really do
Are you saying they didn't play nobody?
No, they played buddies, but they lost to all the buddies.
So I think this is an example, and I saw this mentioned in Discord for something else, but this is an example of a team that wins exactly the games that it is supposed to. Right? If you go back and look at their schedule, you're talking about wins versus Georgia, who's not that great. UCF, who's a good team, but probably equivalent length, right? That's maybe a 50-50 or maybe a 60-40 in Florida State's favor. And then you look at wins versus Virginia, versus Duke, versus Virginia Tech, Wake Forest, Boston College. Those are games that you were supposed to win. It's a comprehensive schedule where they have met expectations.
Yep.
In most of these games, but they haven't been able to turn it up to the next gear.
And real talk, that's what it takes to make a tournament like this. Like,
especially because it's the expanded field again this year, right? Because it's back to 64 and it's not cut at 48 again.
And there's no way last year that Tech would have been nearly as bubbly as they wound up being if
it was the full field.
Yeah, and plus they didn't. When you lose 4 games to a good Miami team, a great Pitt team, a great Louisville team, and a solid Notre Dame team. That's always been a solid team, and in the conversation for tournaments and conference titles and things like that. Like, you don't leave yourself a lot of room for error. So if we would have been stacking that resume up with what we have this year, I think it wouldn't have been nearly as much of a question or anything like that. I'm really struggling to figure out something else to tweet, but there's really no other information that we're not covering on the podcast, or we'll cover in. Oh shoot! I should post the pre-run.
Yeah, that might be a good idea.
Yep.
Looks like they're talking about they might be revealing or reviewing what they've revealed already.
Yeah. We are in the Ohio State, or paired up with Ohio State on this side of the bracket.
Yeah. So I think we're just about halfway done. And it's already been 30 minutes of live podcasting. So very interesting.
Vamp for a sec.
Oh, crap. One more note on FSU. Florida Gulf Coast, one of their opponents, also did make the tournament. So I would expect FSU to be in this field.
Oh, yeah. They're a top 15 RPI team. They should be in the field.
Yeah, I would expect FSU to be in this field. Another note before they go and start. No, I guess we're going ahead and starting the rest of the matchups, starting with Pittsburgh's regional. Pittsburgh versus UMBC, noted basketball darlings. The winner of that will face Towson or Penn State. So there's where Penn State, usual Big Ten power, shows up.
They showed up in Pitt's region. Ooh.
Oh, that's going to be fun. That's going to be a lot of good attendance. Oregon will play Kansas on the other half, and the winner of that will play Ole Miss.
Another team we've mentioned a couple times tonight.
Or Creighton. So that's a really compelling top half.
Also,
especially since all of those games are in Pittsburgh.
Not the Creighton chunk isn't, but UMBC noted Tech grad transfer Grace Rigsby, and then FAMU that we forgot to mention earlier. I believe that's where Dominique Washington grad transferred to as well.
All right, we're still rolling. So number 11 BYU will face Boise State, and the winner of that pairing will face off in a Utah battle of Utah Valley versus Utah. Then Marquette versus Dayton.
Ooh, that's
Dayton,
very basketball-y.
That's a very basketball matchup. The winner of that will play Illinois State or come on. We're live podcasting here. Purdue.
So all those will be taking place at Mackey Arena then?
Probably. I don't know.
That's a very Midwestern regional.
Yeah, it is a very Midwestern regional. Other than
other
than the detour over to Utah and Utah Valley.
Oh no, I just meant the Purdue part. But,
that does do. It's very basketball. There's three major basketball powers. Obviously, this is a volleyball show, but there's three major basketball powers in that regional, and it's really interesting. It's really interesting just from that regard.
Hold on, I'm like trying to.
Oh my God, this is incredible live audio. I really get.
See, the problem is I can't post this till the end of the show because it has notes about the rest of the ACC. So never mind. So let's go back to podcasting.
Yeah. So let's actually, while we have this in front of us, let's dive into Purdue. Because I think that they're hosting one of these regionals. I think that's a really good opportunity to get a look at maybe the typical Big Ten team, how that conference shapes up. And especially since we've been talking about it, Purdue has had a really good year, right? So let's dive into their resume and take a look-see. Fantastic. You basically had it pulled up already.
Oh, yeah. I can read your mind. They're RPI 10, which makes sense for them getting a host site.
26-6, 15-5 in conference. They played Kansas. Kansas is another tournament team.
They did play Louisville as well.
Lipscomb is also on there. Tennessee is on there. Ohio State is on there. Obviously,
we're going to see more of these Big Ten teams as more as the bracket is revealed as well. Particularly Illinois, Michigan is down there. A lot of 4-set games, but that again speaks to the fact that the Big Ten is very, very competitive. I don't really like gassing up other conferences. And we can note Wisconsin, Minnesota, Nebraska, the obvious candidates there as well. But I don't know. It sounds silly to be like, oh, yes, Big Ten basketball or Big Ten volleyball, very competitive. But
it is.
It is. The fact of the matter is this is your prototypical good Big Ten team. In terms of like, if anything is surprising, I think they
went on a nice little win streak to cap off the year. The only blemish on that was the season-ending loss to Nebraska.
But they beat Wisconsin and Minnesota on the road
I think
in the middle of November. That's playing good volleyball. You just went in front of 12,000 total hostile fans.
Oh, yeah.
Look at beat some top 10 teams in their own gym.
Look at some of these attendance totals. Go back, if you want to go back to the schedule real quick. Yeah. Look at some of these attendance totals. You're talking about starting at home.
At home. Like they packed 2,400 fans into the gym.
That's at home. Yeah. So that's 2,400 in Nebraska or in Mackey Arena itself. They played in front of 8,300 in Nebraska. Or I guess they're not playing in Mackey. That's in Holloway. But
I've never heard of Holloway, so my apologies. But
I mean, I assume they'll play in Mackey now that they've made the tournament. It depends on if Mackey is set up for volleyball. Unlike like McCamish now is not set up for volleyball anymore.
I don't think there's nowhere to like put the posts.
Put the stanchions, yeah. I mean, because when we looked into this the last time, it turned out that the original McCamish floor had the stanchion posts.
Yeah.
But now it's just solid concrete under there.
There's two schools of thought I have there. One, I would love to see 9,000 Georgia Tech fans at a game. I think that would be one of the coolest experiences of my sporting lives.
I also think it's very possible to fit 9,000 people in there. You could. I think between students and fans that live in the area, I think you could fill that place out for a tournament game.
The one problem is that it's a short turnaround. But Friday, a second round game, that would be it. But
I also think that there are games this weekend. There are basketball games this weekend.
There are Sunday though. It's
North Carolina.
So it'd be a tight turnaround, but
yeah, North Carolina is this weekend.
Games are Thursday, Friday in the volleyball tournament.
In volleyball,
because can't touch Saturday. It's still the fall. We know about that, but not to
belabor the point, but I think it would be an interesting experience.
But at the same time, having 1,200 people in O'Keefe is going to be louder, hotter, and probably more atmospheric, if you will, than if you don't fill McCamish, right? Because you can roll the dice and put 2,400 people in McCamish or 5,000 or whatever that is. But the look is weird if it's now we didn't fill the place.
Yeah, so it's like I'm gonna avoid the obvious example, but it's like keeping the upper decks, like for an Atlanta United game.
Oh my God, you went there.
Whoa.
I know. I'm giving you a hard time.
I ignored the other obvious example, but it's doing the Atlanta United seating configuration, but not tarping off the upper deck. That's basically what it would look like for McCamish Pavilion in a volleyball configuration. Obviously,
kind of like the NIT against Indiana. I'm pretty sure they sold out the whole lower bowl, but there was just nobody in the upper deck. They literally sold every ticket in the lower, but for whatever reason, they just didn't sell the upper.
Yeah,
which is what they would do in this scenario.
Which is fine. Also, they're not going to buy tarps for the upper deck.
No, but they leave it empty.
Yeah,
for sure.
Leave it empty. They leave it cordoned off. Yada.
They did not go to all those lengths to finally put up a 2019 NIVC banner. By the way, a long-standing
gripe of yours.
I was going to say of ours as a podcast, but thanks for putting me out there.
I also griped about it, but you've been more vocal about it. Let's be clear.
Also, great to see Pitt's head coach getting a long interview as well in this. Cause,
but ours was longer. So
it was, but good to see the ACC. We're represented very well.
As I've always said, this is just all a measuring contest between ACC teams.
Yeah.
Why even play the games? Just make it an ACC Final Four.
Who spin the big wheel that says Miami, FSU, UNC. Miami gets 2 squares, FSU gets 2 squares, and UNC only gets 1.
I'm down. I think a lot of that discussion, like unironically, I mean this not as a joke, I'm being completely serious. I think a lot of the discussion in terms of like that kind of thing, it sort of invites the question of why the ACC doesn't have a conference tournament anymore, right? Because think about how that would look in this year of all years. You might have some teams whose tournament resumes get a little dinged from their performance in the conference tournament, but think about the compelling or the how compelling of a TV product that would be.
Yeah. I mean, I think volleyball is already an intimately watchable product. You can bottle it up in as short as 90 minutes for a lot of games, up to 2.5, 3 hours at most. But then again, that's how long you're spending. It's basically you either have a basketball length game or a football length game. But I agree. I hope that a lot of these games also wind up on national TV as well.
Also, the bracket is back. Florida State has made the tournament like we said they were going to. Obviously, you heard it here first. Florida State will play Kansas State. They will face the winner of Campbell and
It's whoever that national seed is. I keep forgetting.
We should have these prepared.
They didn't
even
show it.
put it on.
they're in the Kentucky chunk of the region, presumably. So I guess this is the Texas field. Who else is? Who's the fourth national seed? Wisconsin. No, we already saw Wisconsin get posted.
Yeah, Wisconsin. Wisconsin was the top right.
Yeah. So they're in the Texas. They're in the Texas chunk of the bracket.
This is so annoying.
Yeah, we apologize in advance and in the past.
Live podcasting is very difficult.
Yeah, but
let's talk about. I don't know. Let's go talk about Kansas State. Let's talk about who Florida State is facing.
Yeah.
First up here.
Flip over to that. This is not them. This is Purdue. There's Ohio State. Honestly, Ohio State's actually in our chunk of the bracket. Since we're
let's talk about Ohio State.
Let's go look at them. Ohio State, it's worth noting, they are a Big Ten team, so saw a lot of the same faces. They smoked Virginia, but Virginia was the worst team in our conference.
They did beat Notre Dame in back-to-back games, one home and one away.
Yes.
They have a loss to Penn State. They have a loss to Purdue. Michigan, sweep of Michigan.
Yep.
Oh, double sweep of Michigan.
Four-setter over Purdue. Losses to Wisconsin in Minnesota. They played 3 total games between Wisconsin and Minnesota. Lost all 3 of them, so no big marquee win. But they did beat Nebraska.
They swept Nebraska
at home. So
interesting.
That is that's probably their marquee win. There's Texas.
Yeah, so I guess
that's what we were waiting to see.
Campbell versus Texas. The winner of that will play Florida State or Kansas State.
They have to go play in Texas's gym too. Oh no.
Is that the same as the
No, it's different. No. It's that big brown brick arena. Louisville had to play there.
That sounds familiar.
In 2019. But
that sounds familiar. Big brown brick arena.
It's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous building. I watched that whole game for some reason, and that was just 2 teams that were on the television at the time that I was watching the television.
Not a compelling TV product. Just 2 teams that were on the television at the same time that you were happening to be watching television.
Texas Volleyball Stadium. That'll get me something. It's a very
it's a bandbox.
Building. Yes.
That is a bandbox. It's like playing soccer at the postage stamp at Yankee Stadium.
It's O'Keefe, but for Texas.
Oh, yeah, and it's Texas-sized. It is, actually, that's a very good way of putting it.
Yeah.
It is a Texas-sized O'Keefe.
With the same Gregory Gymnasium. That's what it's called.
That is just very Texas. Like, as a name. It just gives me very Texas vibes.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. All it did was redirect me to concessions. I don't want concessions.
Okay. Oh, actually, it was Campbell, Nebraska. So that's
that's dumb.
So I guess they just covered Texas. So it's Florida State, Kansas State, Campbell,
State
Nebraska.
has an opportunity to be playing Kentucky.
And then there's the Texas part: Washington versus Brown, Hawaii versus Mississippi State, San Diego versus Rice, Sacred Heart versus Texas. I actually think
a team we played this year.
I actually think that's the entire bracket. So is that 6 ACC teams? 7?
Bottom right, first and second round games. We've seen Wisconsin, Louisville, Texas, and Pitt. Yeah, I think the rest of the show might just be them having 15 minutes of interviews and vamping and things like that.
How do I acquire tickets to this tournament in Atlanta?
I have season tickets. I better be able to get into this stadium.
Have you clicked the old email refresh button to find if you can buy single game tickets here?
Let's see. All I have is an email from Steven about picks.
Womp womp. So I guess we will. Well, is it in the selection show information?
That's a good question.
I love being prepared.
We are super prepared. Watch party RSVP.
Okay. Reading
scorching weekend. That is a scorching weekend.
It was a scorching weekend. Reading.
We should probably talk about the scorching weekend, but.
All right, I think we're done with the live portion of the show, and it's already been 44 minutes.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, there's nothing about tickets, so we'll wait on that.
There's another good shot of Georgia Tech.
They're just chilling at this point. It looks like.
That's a very interestingly placed camera. That's not there for
video board.
No, I can't tell which angle it's from.
No, it has to be on top of the video board. Look how high it is.
It's
also,
either
how else would they know if they're on TV?
Well,
it's not on the video board.
That's actually a really good point. I was
gonna
say
O'Keefe expert.
I was gonna say maybe the camera is set up on the. Wait, we don't have a box. I think I mixed up Ken Byers and O'Keefe.
It's
been a while. It's been a while, okay?
The box situation at O'Keefe is all pending all that.
All
they
the
announced
construction.
The lead donation, and then we haven't heard any details in 2 years.
So I think that's something to keep an eye on because
Yeah.
it was on the projects list.
They deserve this awesome stadium they already have, but with like
Better locker rooms.
yes. I would hate to lose the vibes, but I would hate.
I think
that
you can-
it would mean that they like got stuck in forever. But look at Gregory Gymnasium, like we just saw. Like you can keep the vibes of an old building while making it newer.
I think the thing with Gregory Gymnasium, if you pull up the picture again, their floors are huge.
Oh yeah, it's a lot wider.
Because I assume that's a multi-purpose facility.
I think
because
it used to be their basketball arena back in the day.
oh no, recently their new gym was recently finished.
4,000 seat gym. There's no way it was that recent, right?
Oh no, go up.
Here we go.
It was undergo
Swimming teams.
Yeah, well, this was probably their version of Heisman Gym.
Basketball moved out in 1977.
Yeah, it's their version of Heisman Gym, basically.
Okay.
And here's why so it's also part of the rest of the massive annex.
It's Fike at Clemson.
I have no frame of reference to that.
Oh, okay. I've swum there a bunch of times. It makes sense. Trust me.
It's the CRC. It's a smaller CRC, effectively.
But like old.
Yeah. Which is fine. I think it's a little difficult to compare the two.
Well, because that was built to be a college gymnasium, and O'Keefe was built to be a junior high gymnasium.
Yeah, and I think if and when O'Keefe is renovated, it's going to be hard to keep the bandbox without I think it's going to be hard to keep the bandbox because you have to expand the footprint to build anything.
But you can't. There's a highway 3 feet past the
Right,
walls
but you
on
can
one
build
side.
the other way.
Yeah, that's true. I think if they
Yes,
did,
I can.
I
and
think
you
if
can
they
also,
did anything, it would be like on the ends of the stadium, like the north and the south sides. But
box seats for O'Keefe would be very interesting.
there's no way I'd be able to afford them. But yes, they would be very interesting.
I assume that there would be a long list of people waiting.
Yeah, that is not unexpected, given that they were able to sell out their complete slate this year. Again, one comment that I keep coming back to: how did we put 2,500 people in that room for games back in 2009? Because it's packed with 1,200.
Fire code is fake.
Fire code, yeah. Well, apparently they were like lining up like 3 or 4 deep on the end lines, and there's probably less TV stuff and
Have
things
you?
like that.
If
But
you're a fire marshal listening to this, please cup your ears. If the fire code in O'Keefe has been fake before.
yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, no, good to see Mississippi State. They're currently on the screen. We played them. That was a tough matchup, but yeah, again,
It's
not a coincidence that we're seeing a lot of very familiar faces.
I think this is something that is a very Southern name. Julie Darty Dennis.
Darty, woo!
I think this goes back to something that we were saying earlier. Even when we were only through half of the bracket, so many teams on Tech's schedule from this year have made the tournament, and it's a testament or another testament to how scheduling tough can net you points, or is a formative experience and can net you points later on down the road.
Is this where we take a hard left turn into our 340th ranked strength of schedule in men's basketball?
No, here's what we're gonna do. This is both a audience update and a Jake update. We're gonna split this episode now that we've talked for an hour just about volleyball. We're gonna release this now, and then we're gonna talk about our normal stuff.
Yeah, so we'll do volleyball results in the next episode. This will be live to you as soon as possible. We'll get the coverage out on the site as well.
All right, plug all of our stuff so I can finish and upload this.
From the rumbleseat at gmail.com for ideas, thoughts, if you want to do live things. If you have ways we can improve, send us an email. Follow us on Twitter, comment on articles. Twitter is at FTRS blog. And then you also have fromtherumbleseat.com. So feel free to check us out there as well. I am Jake Grant98 on Twitter, and Akshay is Twitter redacted on Twitter. But
Incredible.
feel free to give us a follow there. We'll be talking about volleyball and basketball in the next one. And in the meantime, hopefully see you at O'Keefe. If not, tune in on Thursday for the first round.